My name is George Maharis, and I've got a secret.
I've Got a Secret, brought to you tonight by Green Whip, a rich topping mix with all the flavor richness of whipped cream from General Foods.
Two naturals join forces in a natural new cereal combination. Post, Bran, and Prune Flakes. Now you get the rewards of both in one box, in one delicious serving. Two naturals join forces to put the benefits of Bran and the sweetness of prunes in every spoonful, to give you flavor you're sure to take a liking to. Two naturals join forces in new Post, Bran, and Prune Flakes.
From New York, here is I've Got a Secret, starring Steve Allen.
Good evening and welcome once again to I've Got a Secret. Now, we have some interesting equipment here. In just a moment, we're going to print the first copies of... No, seriously, in case you're wondering what this strange-looking contraption is, I'll tell you. I don't know. And in case you're wondering about the strange-looking group right over on my left, that's our good old panel. To be more specific, Betsy Palmer, Bill Cullen, Bess Meyerson, and Henry Morgan. And what were you saying? Oh, stay back here. I'll be down. Hello, I'm over here in case you wonder where that voice is coming from. I'm not supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be over there. All right, panel. If you're ready to play the game, let's welcome our first guest. Right over here. I'm sorry I almost missed our appointment, gentlemen. But good evening to the two of you. And can you tell us your names, please, and where you're from?
Edward Littick, Belleville, New Jersey. Tommy Logan, Cedar Grove, New Jersey.
It's Mr. Littick and Mr. Logan, panel. Now, gentlemen, I take it that these cylinder-shaped things over here, whatever they are, belong to you?
Yes.
Very well. They look intriguing, so if you'll whisper to me, we'll show the audience just what you do with these things. Mm-hmm. That sounds remarkable enough, but I understand there's a little bit more to your story. Wow. Panel, the clue concerns... Take your hands off me, sir. Now we're supposed to be here. And then after a while, we'll be over there again. Then we'll be up here, then we'll be down there. Keep your eye on us, friends. We're going to keep moving. Anyway, the secret concerns something they do besides all this stuff. And we'll start the questioning with Betsy Palmer.
Well, Mr. Littick, the way you gave Steve Allen a poke in his back that he should move...
Was excruciating.
It might have been excruciating, but it also seems as though he might be in show business because he knew what he was supposed to be doing.
I was here this afternoon.
You were here this afternoon. And your remark also. Now, I notice that both you and Mr. Logan are wearing shoes.
Well,
yeah. No.
You don't usually come barefoot.
But they're a different kind of shoe. They look like a bowling shoe, only they seem to have something on the bottom of them that might make you need to grip on those cylinders over there. Are you going to be on the cylinders on your feet?
No.
No? Oh, how about... Oh. You're, do the cylinders, are they involved in anything that you're going to do?
Yes.
You're not going to have your feet on them?
$20 down. No, they won't have their feet on them, Betsy. Bill Cullen?
Are you going to have something of yours on the cylinders, Mr. Logan?
Yes.
Are we now attempting to ascertain what portion of you you're going to have on the cylinders?
Right.
Is it above the waist?
I mean, no. There's an unwarranted assumption again.
Is it bigger than a bread box? I like that unwarranted. It is a portion of your body that is going to be on those cylinders.
That's the unwarranted assumption I was telling you about.
No portion of your body is going to be on there.
No.
No. There's a place to stand or sit in betwixt those cylinders there. Not a portion of their body? Well, I want to know then why they have those fancy type shoes on it. You're going to have to do something tricky with your feet, Mr. Logan. I'll direct that to you. Is that correct?
Not exactly. No.
Just like the shoes.
The feet are, of course, involved. $40 down. Bess?
Well, now, it seems rather confusing. Mr. Littick, is there any additional appliance or machinery or props that you will bring out on the stage when you demonstrate these machines?
Yes.
Ah, and would you be standing on those machines?
No.
No. Standing on the rubber thing at all?
No.
Would you be holding something in your hands?
No. Well,
In a sense.
Would you come into contact with each other?
no.
$60 down. Henry?
Sounds like a heck of a trick.
It really is.
This other thing you're going to bring out, is that a person?
No.
Is it living?
No.
It's a mechanical device you worked out.
Yes, sir.
Did you work it out? I mean, did you invent this thing?
No.
They did not invent the device that is going to be brought out, no.
Now, did I make an unwarranted assumption when I said that it's a device? Is it a common thing that we know about?
Yes.
Like a broom or a spoon or something like that?
It's about that, you were...
Isn't that a dynamometer? Isn't that what they call those machines, or a dynamometer type of machine?
What's a dynamometer, Bill?
You put an automobile on it, and the wheels turn, and these things spin, and the automobile goes like mad, but it doesn't move.
You've got the idea. You and Henry, if you put your knowledges together, you are just on the verge of getting it. Ed Littig and Charlie Logan are probably the most unusual race drivers in the world. For one thing, they don't need a track. All they need are these rollers and lots of nerve, because, believe it or not, they balance bicycles on top of these rollers and hit speeds of up to 60 miles an hour. The gentlemen, they're leaving. They've lost interest in the entire program. No, they're going out to take their clothes off and to get into their... I'll see you around. And while they're doing that, I'm going to put this up here. Now, you might think, Bill or Henry or anybody, that if you could ride a bike anyplace, you could ride a bike here because... Oops, I got to turn backwards. No, it's off. You might think that if you could just ride a bike in your backyard, you could do this, but it's not true, because in your backyard, you get stability from momentum. Here, there is no momentum. It's just like balancing it that way, except that the wheels turn, so it's very, very tough. I refuse to even get on it, and I am notorious for being dumb enough to do dumb things. Here he is. Can I help you off here, sir? It's not on the roller. Sorry. I'm a big help, right? How many years have you been doing this?
Only 43.
You must be very tired.
Is it safe?
Is it safe? That was asking. For you and me, it would be terribly dangerous, and even these gentlemen could get hurt if they fell off. Because it's nice to fall when your feet are strapped in, I always say. And the rear. It's underway. It's like bicycling on a terribly narrow track, too. Now we're going to have a race, and you'll be able to see who's ahead, which otherwise would be tough, by watching these arrows. This gentleman is Mr. Littig, is wearing a striped jacket. He is the striped arrow. The other fellow, Mr. Logan, in the red, he has the red or plain arrow. If you're watching in black and white, and everybody is. I'll start them together when the two arrows meet at the top together, which they should very shortly. They're going to go 10 laps, which will be the equivalent of a mile. And now they're getting ready for the meeting at the starting point. They say they won't get it this time. They'll have to go around once more. They'll get neck and neck as they approach the starting line, and then they'll do 10 laps, or the equivalent of 1 mile. They've already got their speeds by the speedometers here up to around 30 miles an hour. And here they go. And it's still neck and neck. Very high speed. Mr. Logan takes a slight lead over Mr. Littig. Still very close, however. Very close. As they come up near the end of the second lap, now Mr. Littig is in a substantial lead. He's going about 45 miles an hour. Still increasing his lead. Mr. Logan is pacing himself. At the third lap, Mr. Littig still ahead by a substantial margin. Mr. Logan closing a little bit of the gap as they go into the fourth. Almost at the halfway mark now. Mr. Logan closing up a little bit of that lead. The halfway mark. Littig still ahead. Speeds now in the neighborhood of 40 miles an hour. They're pacing themselves. Big Bill Allen, your sports announcer. And now, while I was whooping and talking to Bill Cullen, the lead shakes hands. Bill, would you keep your finish to yourself? I'm working harder than these two men are. You realize that? The speedometer now shows a speed of about 50 miles an hour. It is neck and neck once again. We're now in the last two laps. Mr. Lennig ahead at speeds of over 50 miles an hour. Substantially increasing his lead over Mr. Logan. Here comes the finish. That's it. It's remarkable. Gentlemen, congratulations to the both of you. We hope to see you in public performing very soon. Thank you very much. Bess has a question.
No, we just wanted to know what these two gentlemen do. Are they
Inside,
racers?
no, inside those things, they dry clothes.
Oh, come on.
What do you mean, what do they do? That's what they do.
They do this as a profession.
They do this for money, I hope.
Oh.
They're working pretty hard. I hope they get paid for that stuff. Anyway, there isn't too much competition. We'll be back with you again in just a minute, but first, here's something.
Hi, I brought the napkins. Good. Everything okay? Mm-hmm. Coffee ready?
Making it now.
You're kidding. Instant coffee for the Bridge Club?
Not any instant. Maxwell House. You make it by the pot. Recipe's on the jar. The only one I dare serve my guests.
Well, it's your party. Harriet, they raved about the coffee. Of course, I knew they would.
Instant Maxwell House, the one instant coffee good enough to serve your guests.
Mr. Lennig, I've just learned is a woodworker. I don't know what Mr. Logan does.
They're in great shape. What?
Yeah, they're
Yes. May we have our next contestant, please? Make yourself right comfortably there. Now, panel, I'm going to introduce this gentleman for the present as just Colonel X. All I can tell you about him right now is that about 2 weeks ago, a windstorm started right here in the theater. Somebody's printing money backstage, I think. No, about 2 weeks ago, a new landmark in aviation history was established by the first round-the-world flight from pole to pole. It was the first time in history that an airplane was flown around the world the long way. It's actually a little longer that way, over the North and South Poles in a single flight. Now, when this project was planned, one of the first men invited to participate here was Colonel X, for a very special reason. So, Colonel, if you'll whisper to me, we'll show the audience at home what that reason was. The clue panel concerns something he did, and we'll start the questioning with Bess Meyerson this time.
Colonel X, were you ever involved in a similar adventure at any point in your life? You were?
Yes.
Many years ago?
Yes.
Are you a pilot? Were you a
Yes.
pilot? Did you
I am.
fly your own plane at that time?
Oh, yes.
Off to a good start, Bess. Henry, $20 down.
You said 10 years ago, Steve?
No.
2 weeks ago.
No, just 2 weeks ago, this pole-to-pole flight was made.
Oh, all right. Then, Colonel, you, when you were piloting, you must have set a record or two.
Yes.
Uh-huh. Well, let's say, was the first record you set something you did by yourself?
Judgely.
In one sense, by himself, and in another sense, there were people around. I guess.
Was it a distance flight?
Yes.
$40 down. Betsy?
Well, Colonel X, instead of top to bottom, was it around the circumference of the Earth instead?
No.
No? What does it have to do with going around the world, though?
Beg pardon?
Did it have to do with going around the world?
No, it had nothing to do with that.
Does it have to do with the poles?
Yes.
The North Pole? The South Pole?
Both.
Both poles.
Well, the secret specifically has to do with the South Pole.
South
With
Pole.
the South Pole. You were the first man to fly Across the South Pole?
Yes. Now, panel, I'll introduce Colonel X in the proper way. He is one of the legendary figures in aviation history. I'd like you to meet Colonel Bernd Balken.
Balken.
Yes, who, he was Admiral Byrd's pilot on the first airplane ever to fly over the South Pole way back in 1929. Colonel, it's an honor to have you with us tonight. Would you tell us about the purpose of this pole-to-pole flight that you've just completed?
It had two purposes. First, to prove the state of air transportation today, the high proficiency of the aircraft and the crews.
The crews?
And the crews. Mm-hmm. We can take a plane today out of the airline transportation, one long-range plane, fly it anywhere, at any time in the world. And secondary, to compile scientific data, such as cosmic rays in a profile over the Earth from pole to pole, which had never been collected before, ozone measurements.
Ozone?
Ozone, albedos, the reflection from the Earth, from clouds and so on.
Albedos?
Albedos, yes. The reflection from the surface and from the clouds.
I see.
And communications.
Well, it's very obvious that Colonel Balken was not invited on this flight just for sentimental reasons. He was in charge of polar navigation and survival equipment for the flight. Colonel, I don't want to embarrass you, but I think the audience would like to know about your qualifications for this job. How did you first become interested in polar exploration?
Back in 1925, when Captain Amundsen and Lincoln Ellsworth was lost in the Arctic.
Amundsen?
Amundsen, yes. And Lincoln Ellsworth. I was selected as a member of a search and rescue expedition. I was then a member of the Royal Norwegian Air Force. This brought me to the polar regions.
For the very young people watching, Roald Amundsen was the great explorer who flew the dirigible, as we call it, Norge, and as the right pronunciation is Norge. He flew it to the North Pole back in 1926. And then a year later, you accomplished another major breakthrough in aviation. Tell the folks what that was, if you would.
It was the first airmail flight across the Atlantic from the United States to Europe. 1.5 months after Lindbergh flew, I flew over with Admiral Byrd, the first transatlantic airmail.
That's right. We have a couple of... couple of pictures here. Here's the airplane that made this recent flight from pole to pole, over the poles. And I'm going to put right in front of that the picture of the airplane that flew to the South Pole in 1929. Quite a difference there. Aside from the obvious differences, how did the two flights compare?
Well, you can say there's quite a lot of difference, because the plane we used in 1929 had to be specially designed and modified to be able to negotiate the distance for the first thing, and also the height we had to achieve to get in on the polar plateau. In other words, it was a specially made job, a custom-made job for the flight. The aircraft we used on this last flight, when we flew around the world in 2.5 days, 24 hours between each poles, was a plane that was taken off the production line the day before or 2 days before we started the flight, manned by crews from the regular airlines, and off we went.
Well, Colonel, it's a fascinating story, and we're very honored that you were willing to come and tell it to our audience tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Colonel, among the many honors he wears, incidentally, medals, is the Congressional Medal. We'll meet our special guest for tonight in just a minute, but first, Bill Cullen, why are you so happy over there?
Because I'm under the mistletoe, Steve. It's supposed to be the best way to get your sweetheart to kiss you, but it doesn't always do the trick. So I've got a far better way for you girls that even works on husbands. First, prepare a special holiday pie like pecan, pumpkin, or mincemeat. Then make it taste even better with Dream Whip. Now, what's that you're thinking? Would you dare use Dream Whip instead of whipped cream on a dessert as important as these? Well, you can use Dream Whip on any dessert. Dream Whip has all the flavor richness of whipped cream. Smooth, creamy, country fresh flavor. Because Dream Whip, the whipped topping mix, is fresh whenever you need it. And it stays fresh on your shelf. Oh, look at that. As my grandmother would say, it's beautiful. Calories only 14 to a tablespoon. Try it, girls. Makes a man feel special just to look at it. Dream Whip with all the flavor richness of whipped cream.
Now it's time to meet our special guest for the evening, television and movie star, and currently the singing star at the Persian Room of New York's Plaza Hotel, Mr. George Maharis. George, it's wonderful to have you here. Now, I don't know too much about show business, but this sure looks like part of a computer to me.
Well, that's what it is. You see, I borrowed it to try a little experiment tonight. You see, it occurred to me that after all these years that you've been on the air, that the audience knows quite a bit about the panel, but the panel knows practically nothing about the audience, and particularly our audience tonight.
In the studio, yeah, well, that's unfortunate, but I think it's true.
Right, like, for instance, we have 208 men and 250 women for a total of 458 people in the audience, but how many of them are married? How many of them drive cars? How many of them in the armed forces, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera?
Yes. It could be fun to guess. Is that what we're getting to here?
That's what I thought. So before the program, you see, we asked only the adults in the audience to fill out the questionnaires. Oh, I want you to meet Mr. Foley here from UNIVAC.
UNIVAC. How do you do, Mr. Foley?
You see, what we'll do now is we'll ask the panel a question about the audience, and then Mr. Foley will take the questionnaires from the audience and put them through UNIVAC, and we'll see which one of the panel comes closest to this brain.
I see. It'd be funny if he said, here's Foley from UNIVAC, and he came up like this. Well, panel, when you get a question now, put your answer to it on the card real fast and place it in the holder right in front of you, and we'll get right to work. George, what is the first question?
All right. Now, according to the latest national statistics available, at least 15 million people in this country are overweight. How many people in the audience do you think are overweight?
Admitted.
Out of 458. How many?
Oh,
okay, Betsy has a card I can't even read because there's nothing on it. Now it's the other way, and I still can't read it. Now it says 300.
Tell me, for heaven's sake.
And Bill says 97, Beth says 270, and Henry says 50.
If they're honest.
If they're honest.
They have to be honest.
Right.
Oh, they're not going to be honest.
They were honest because they didn't sign their names. Now, what's the answer, Mr. Foley? 136. And the closest one is Bill with 90.
By 39.
Huh?
I missed by 39.
Yes, but you're still the, what was it,
136, right.
Yeah, you're still the closest.
Why don't we use the UNIVAC to get the mathematics?
Now we also need a 4-year-old kid who can add.
All right. Now, the second question goes like this. Is there a doctor in the house? Before we find out, I'll tell you that according to the United States Census Bureau, there are 290,000 physicians in this country. Now, how many doctors do you think are in our audience?
MD.
Any MD, right.
MD.
Out of 458, how many doctors? Betsy says 1, Bill says 3, Beth says none, and Henry says none. Fascinating.
Well, it's short, whatever it is.
2.
We were right around.
And Betsy and Bill tied 5. Why would you assume there was no doctor here, Henry?
Well, if he's a real doctor, he has to be on call all the time. Nobody would leave this show.
Very good reason.
Well, all right. Now, how would you call a doctor out of this audience? There's no way, is there?
Like this. Oh, doctor.
Hey, doctor.
Here, doctor. That's how I would do it. George, what's the next question?
Right. There are about 4.5 million color television sets in this country. How many people in our studio audience own a color television set? Right. Color-vision television set.
Betsy says 15, Bill says 38.
Wait a minute.
Beth says 12, and Henry says 5. UNIVAC says 45. 45 people here own color TV sets.
I don't have
And Bill Cullen is the closest.
Henry's a natural pessimist. We have a question here that we have no national figures on, but we're curious about them. How many people here tonight do you think have ever, or I should say have never ever flown in an airplane? Have never ever flown in an airplane?
Out of 458 people, Very good question.
Out of 4, have never flown?
Never.
2.
Betsy says 2, Bill says 16, Henry says 150.
My pen is
Wide divergence between the guesses, and Bess says 20. Let's find out what Univac says. The answer is 94 people have never flown here. Henry, I guess, is the closest, right? Yes. I guess this is, George, is probably a little higher than the national average because a lot of these people are tourists and flew here to get here.
But a lot of them. Here's one. One of the major life insurance companies estimates that this month, 15 million people in the United States have colds. Now, panel, how many people in our studio audience have colds tonight? Out of 458.
Here comes the coffers. Sounds like they all have.
Good height.
Betsy says 15, Bill 78, Bess 9, Henry 8.
Sure, it's a very sick audience.
Is that including you, Bill?
Yeah, I got one too, George.
Find out what Univac says.
Oh, there's a lot of people. None.
75, but once again, Bill almost has it.
I'll tell you.
Hey, Steve.
Why aren't you goofs at home?
Yeah. A lot of business here for those doctors.
We only have 2 doctors.
George says the Univac also has a cold. That added a little bit to it. Well, George, it was a fascinating demonstration. I hope you'll come back some other time and perform it for us again, you and Mr. Foley.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. George Maharis. We'll be back again in just a minute. We pause now for this message.
Very
This is springtime in the Northwest. Here in the Northwest, as all over America, people are turning to the taste that's springtime fresh. The taste of Salem cigarettes. Salem, America's favorite menthol cigarette, the largest selling by far. Because Salem brings you rich tobacco taste, menthol soft flavor. Salem refreshes your taste.
Try something different for a change. Turn to Salem for a taste that's springtime fresh.
Try Salem filter cigarettes for a change.
Panel, I want you to know that next week our special guest is Miss America, Debbie Bryant. Good night, everybody. Hey.
I've Got a Secret has been brought to you tonight by General Foods, makers of Post Cereal, the cereals that make breakfast a little bit better, and by Smooth, Rich, Instant Maxwell House Coffee. This commerce down by Montanaro. This program was pre-recorded. This is John Cannon speaking.